All right, guys, back on Southeastern 16 with Max Barr. We are looking at one of the big games. That is Alabama heading to Purdue. Two teams with certainly national title, Final Four type expectations this season, Max. And this should be a good one there as the Boilermakers host this one at home, which it's notable. They did not lose a home game last year. Haven't lost a home game, I think.
Woo.
What was it? February. Let me find the date here. They lost to Indiana on February 25th, 2023. Last time Purdue
Man.
has lost a home game. So if you want to bet on this game, and if you want to bet for or against Purdue, you can do it with our friends at Bet Online, the world's most trusted betting platform, your number one source for online betting. From the earliest odds to in-game live betting, Bet Online provides you with all the action and the ability to watch games as they happen. Largest selection of odds on everything from football, NBA, college basketball, NHL, UFC, MMA. Head to Bet Online today. Get on the action. America's most trusted site for online wagering. Bet Online. The game starts here. All right, Max. Initial thoughts on this matchup. Alabama heading to Purdue.
As we record this on Thursday morning, we do not have an official opening line yet, but we can do our best to try to guess based on a few different sites. And you're probably going to see Purdue as a 1 to 2 point favorite, probably. Maybe 3 point favorite, but that would be a little bit surprising, but probably a possession favorite, any way you want to swing it, for Purdue. And now, originally, that may surprise some people, and people might, myself as well, be like, wow, Purdue's looked a little bit iffy post Edie era, and now the freshman Jacobson, who had an amazing first game against not East Texas A&M, Corpus Christi,
No.
18 points or 13 points, 7 rebounds, 3 blocks. He's 7'4". So I don't know how Purdue keeps this factory of mammoths going, but they never stop. He's out. Unfortunate situation with an injury there. So that definitely changes things. And we do have one look at Purdue, or well, 2 looks, but 1 full game without him. And it was a mixed bag, I guess you want to say. Yale kind of closed it at the end with some garbage time. You had TKR playing the 5 for most of it, but still a little bit up in the air. But Blake, when you look at that line, are you surprised by a Purdue 1 to 2, maybe 3 point favorite, or is that kind of what you would expect?
I'm not, just because of what I mentioned earlier, the Purdue success at home. I mean, I think
Mm-hmm.
it's just, again, they've not, like I said, they've not lost a home game since that point, which if you want to be an Alabama fan and say, hey, who else did they lose to that season at home in 22-23? Well, they did lose to Big Cliff and Rutgers on January
Hey.
2nd as well. But if you want to, say, hey, but really, if you look at it kind of from that standpoint, I mean, this is just a team that has not lost a lot of games. Go to the season before; they only lost 1 game at home, right? So this is
Yeah.
one of those kind of teams where they just don't lose many home games, even whether they're played in November or whether they played in February. As Matt Painter's been there, they traditionally play pretty well there in West Lafayette. So I think that's the line to me would make total sense as to why Purdue would be the favorite in this game for that reason. But also you're going to factor in what we've seen from Alabama to this point, and so look, Alabama has not looked like world beaters just yet. They did in game 1 against UNC Asheville, but as they played, 2 what we said are kind of high quality, I think, low major, mid major, whatever you want to call them. Arkansas State, Alabama holds on, wins that game by 9. McNeese, they win that one by 8. Both those games were in Tuscaloosa. So there are some things with Alabama so far that you're waiting to see, and I know you'll talk about some of it. Like, you've got a few players maybe that are in slumps. There's
Mm-hmm.
no Chris Youngblood to be able to, I think, help defensively with some things right now. And so, from that perspective, they're not shooting it well right now. And so, like, all those things that we said, if you really think about it, Max, we're like, why can Alabama get back to the Final Four this year? Well, some of the reasons were they're going to shoot it well. They haven't so far. Chris Youngblood is the X factor. He's not played yet because of an injury. And so, as you combine those things together, early season test on the road here against a Purdue team that, as we know, and all the way to the national championship last year, yes, a lot to do with what Zach Edey did for that team. But keep in mind, the guys that are back, right? Like Fletcher Lawyer's back, Braden Smith's back. You talk about
Braden Smith.
TKR, like these are guys that again, the sort of history, I think, and what they have built there at Purdue, you've got guys with a lot of experience and guys that have played in a lot of meaningful games like this. So, not shocked at all if Purdue's the favorite here, which again I fully expect them to be. So, yeah, it's kind of a combination of both things.
Yeah, first off, Braden Smith and Mark Sears on the same court is gonna be a treat to watch. Very
Yeah.
excited for that. It's two of the best guards in the nation, hands down. But the other thing I was gonna say, and I don't wanna just be all negative on Alabama here, but just kind of trying to explain why this game might be tricky. It's LeBaron Philon's first road game.
Mm-hmm.
It's Darian Reed's first road game. It's Aiden Sherrell's first road game. That is a factor, whether you like it or not. So that plays a part. When you look at defensively, how do we? It's not going to be the same Purdue team offensively as the past few years, clearly without Edey, but I don't think it's as much as like we need to stop Braden Smith. I think it's more of stop everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
Braden Smith is so good. He'll find a way to a productive night. But don't let Lawyer hit you with 4 threes. Don't let Miles Colvin hit you with 3 wide open threes. Take out, eliminate the extra pieces. Braden Smith will probably get his regardless. I think that is like I don't know if that's how they'll implement the defense, but take away Lawyer, take away Colvin. I think that's where they got to start defensively.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I think it does start defensively here for me with Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
You know what they're going to do offensively. Like there is no
Yep.
question what Alabama's going to do. Like that, there never is. Like the style they play under Nate Oates, and like we said, the threes have not been falling so far. 30%, 235th nationally. They've also not been a great free throw shooting team either, and that's something that can worry you a little bit in a close game like this. They're shooting 67.6%, which is 228th nationally, so that's also not a great number. But they have gotten a lot of their points from inside the arc, right? They're shooting in terms of the percentages, they're shooting 67% from two so far. That could change here a little bit, but you can also say, Max, as you said, with the Jacobson injury, maybe not as intimidating as it was
Yep.
before to find some of those shots, which, as we mentioned, it's an open three or it's a play at the rim. Like that's just how this thing works. You're not getting a lot of mid range stuff with Nate Oates' teams, and we know that by now. So I think defensively is where it all begins. And I think you need to see Alabama here force some turnovers, those kind of things to get some easy buckets. I do think this will be a game where, just given what we know of both offenses, there are going to be points on the board. And so, that makes it so important, I think, for Alabama to know that you are going to be playing a Purdue team who stylistically is a lot different. This isn't going to be up and down in Purdue's favor, right? Like Alabama wants it to be that way, but Purdue is going to do what kind of they've always done with Matt Painter, right? And that's just be kind of a team that is methodically going to make you play defense. And that's the question. And, can Alabama stay out of foul trouble? Can they guard, a little bit longer in the shot clock, those kind of things. So I'm really curious about that too. And this game can also be very simple, where if Alabama comes out and they're not making shots, hey, that could be a bit of an issue, right? I mean, in a game like this, where again you're on the road playing a team that doesn't lose very much at home. Alabama shot 44% from three in game one against UNC Asheville, shot 19% against Arkansas State, 32% against McNeese. And so, I mean, Max, that kind of can be it right here. Is just that they've got to find a way to make shots more consistently, and that's where you expect big players like Mark Sears and Grant Nelson to step up in this spot, and that's the good thing for Alabama. They do have these two guys they can lean on, and those two guys were catalysts for a historic run last year to the Final Four. So I would at least have confidence that they'll be ready for a game like this.
Yeah, as we move closer to picks here, I'll tell you what, the narrative of an Alabama game almost always is going to be shooting, right? Just that's what Nate Oates has created. But I think the path to victory for either team is the points in the paint in this game. Looking at the Purdue-Yale game, Yale doubled Purdue's points in the paint, doubled them. we're going to be talking about Alabama shooting. I think it may come down to Mark Sears' ability to finish through contact, Grant Nelson's aggressive mindset, and if Alabama can comfortably run offense to get points in the paint, now you open up the shooting, right? Whereas if you couldn't get anything on Edey, remember the game last year where, I mean, I would pull it up real quick. It was 92-86. Alabama shot 46 threes and only 18 twos last time. 46 threes, only 18 twos. That is not even going to be remotely close. I think they're going to be able to hammer it inside. I think the Jacobson injury is a huge knock on Purdue. If it was the other way around and we were saying we got an Alabama team that doesn't have Chris Youngblood, who's got some young guys playing their first road game at an arena that is extremely tough to lose at, and they're going to have to shoot, my pick would be Purdue. But seeing Purdue's inability to guard the paint, seeing Yale just feast inside, I think there's a path to victory here for Alabama. I think that they're going to be a public road underdog, which is never a good idea to bet on. Never a good idea. But I like bad ideas, so I'm going with the Tide for this one. If you are watching this for a gambling perspective, don't.
Don't.
Oh,
The best advice you could have there. Just don't. Don't do it. I'll be honest with you. I think that this is one of those games where I said coming into the season, I thought that Alabama at their best, at full strength, could be the best team in college basketball this year. And I said there was no way I could pick anyone other than them to win the SEC, because that's what we do, right? It's preseason rankings. You just go by what you saw at the end of last year, the roster that was compiled, and that's where you sort of you try to go on that. But through the last couple games, I mean, I think this is a tough spot for Alabama. I think this is a tough road game. They've not played consistent the past few games. They've won, but they've not been as consistent as we would like to see. You're playing a team, as you just said. Yes, the odds will be in Purdue's favor in terms of them being a couple point favorite here, but I think to me, what I'm going to lean on in this one, and look, if it turns out Alabama wins this game, then am I going to be shocked? Of course not, because they're only going to be a favorite underdog by maybe a bucket. But
yeah.
Purdue's home record and the way they tend to find ways to win at home and have over the past several years, I'm gonna go with that, even though I think you bring up the great points about how the interior could be something where if Alabama sticks to what they do best offensively, and that is find ways to attack, and then when the defense closes, you're able to pass the ball and get open shots on the perimeter. If they can just do that, they'll be fine here, and I think they'll win the game. Yep. But
easier said than done on the road.
It's a tough spot. So yeah, we may split on this one, even though I was probably fully expected to be the person that was going to come in just hyping up Alabama and picking them in every spot here. But yeah, so I think
tricky.
It's a tricky game, and so we'll see how it plays out here for this one. So there you go. Some thoughts on Purdue and Alabama. Another one of these games, as we've said, in the SEC, great non-conference game, and can be a huge game for Alabama in terms of continuing to build what could be one of the best resumes we've ever seen if Alabama were to just roll through, this non-conference slate, how tough it is. But this one, too, they're only going to have a couple like this. They're true road game at Purdue, true road game at North Carolina. These are not neutral games, true road game. And that's the tough part, I think, maybe for this one. But Alabama's good enough to win it. They got the good enough talent, I think, to win it all this year. We'll see how they handle this first big test on the road against the Boilermakers. But there you go, guys. Some thoughts on Alabama, Purdue. We'll have more thoughts coming for some of the other big games on Saturday, specifically Ohio State and Texas A&M. If you want all of our SEC basketball coverage, you can find it here at Southeastern 16. Hit the subscribe button. Hit the like button as well. Check out everything else we got on the channel. Max?
I'll tell you what. If you're a Purdue fan and you want to come make fun of us after, or whether you're an Alabama fan and you want to cheer joy, whatever it is, come join us after. We'll probably be live right after the game, Friday night.
We will do that. So, be sure to hop in and we'll talk about it. So, appreciate you guys watching as always. We'll talk to you here soon at Southeastern 16.